Okay, if you've watched my channel in the past, you'll know that I'm a big fan of fuzz pedals. I particularly like fuzz face and that whole Jimi Hendrix thing, but I've got various types. Some of these pedals cost quite a lot of money, right? And when you start spending a lot of money on gear, you can start to tell yourself that the money equals better tone, better gear, right? And I guess often it is the case, but on this channel, I've often in the past liked to sort of look at things from the perspective of, do I really need to spend that? And today what I want to do is take you through 4 levels of pricing with fuzz pedals, starting with the cheapest one that I've got, which is this authentic Hendrix MXR pedal, which is a sort of fuzz face. It has silicon and germanium. It's got a little buffer in there. And this runs about 130, 140 pounds. It's also very small, so it can fit on a very small board, which is handy, right? But we're going to find out, how does that compare to ones that get a lot more expensive? So after that, we've got what I think is a great and very usable fuzz from Great Eastern Effects, made here in the UK. This is the Focus Fuzz, and these I think you can get for 170 pounds. So not a massive jump, but I do think it is a jump in quality. We'll talk about that. Then the pedal that I use most often when I'm just sort of playing for myself is this one. This is, you know, in a proper fuzz face enclosure, this is Charlie pedals. You know, one guy making these in the UK, making various types of different fuzz pedals. This is a particularly special one. It uses NKT 275 transistors, which are, you know, the sort of rare ones that people talk about. And I believe he's run out. So I know he was making some recently for people I know, but I don't think he's got any more. And I think this one probably set me back, or would set you back on the second-hand market. I don't know anymore. 800, 1,000, that sort of money. So it's a massive jump from the Focus Fuzz. But then it's a completely different look. It's very authentic. There's so much work going into finishing these and relicking them and finding those transistors, spending lots of money on transistors that may not sound good, and then trying different ones. So yeah, that's what you get with that. And then maybe the most notorious expensive fuzz pedal maker at the moment, Isle of Tone, and the Haze67, a pedal I've had now for quite a long time that I really enjoy. This isn't really quite a fuzz face. It's not quite a tone bender, which is the sort of predecessor to fuzz face. In some respects, I'm simplifying that. But it's its own thing that is pretty glorious. But on the second-hand market now, these are about £900. And I remember in the middle of the pandemic when these could be like 1,500, 12, 13, 1,500 quid. They've actually just made a new version in the most beautiful wedge-shaped enclosure in a blue color, but I've heard the price on that and it is above my pay grade, I must be honest. I paid, again, probably about £800 for this. So, what am I playing today? Let's have a look. Okay, so today I've got this Castadosa Abbey. It's Castadosa's own take on the Strat, and what I love about it is that, well, it's called the Abbey because the pickups in this are wound by Abby, the woman who was famously a pickup winder at Fender from the 50s all the way through until probably 15, 20 years ago. She's still alive. She's must be in her mid to late 80s, and her daughter have started making some pickups again, and Castadosa managed to get some and put in this guitar. So funny enough, I often use Abbey pickups, another original set, in my main Fender Strat as well, but I fancied playing this one today. And I'm playing through a 1966 JTM 45, so it's original vintage amp, all original transformers, and that's through a 2x12 cab, mic'd up at the cab and in the room. So you're going to see the decibel meter running throughout this video, so you can see what sort of volumes these sounds are coming out at. Let's hear a little bit of the amp by itself. before we jump into the first pedal, and we'll start from the Hendrixy one, the MXR pedal, what is it that would make a great fuzz? What is it that I'm looking at or thinking about when I'm playing this? And it was an interesting process, spending about an hour going through the 4 pedals recording, because it did evolve. The way I played and felt playing each pedal as they got more expensive did change. So you'll see in a sec when I kick this Hendrix one on, it slightly throws me off my game, because this, well, let's see that first. So this MXR Hendrix pedal, it just has this huge sort of overriding low end, big fuzz noise that comes out at you if you put that fuzz up quite high. The fuzz was maybe on about 3/4 on, which is not unusual to set a pedal like that. And you'll hear later with the Charlie pedals one, that low end is a common thing in the proper fuzz face, the proper Germanium fuzz faces. But it's very exaggerated in this pedal. But the main thing that we're going to hear in a second, when you hear a bit more of this pedal, is that it just sort of has this big low noise almost all the time, and the individual notes you then play high up don't really stand out well when you've got the pedal set like this. Let's hear that. Yeah, so something I'm looking for in a good fuzz is the ability to actually hear what I'm playing. So when in the room playing this, I just felt very much like I don't know if I'm really controlling this, or the actual dynamics of the pedal, or it's just doing it and I'm along for the ride. That's what it felt like. So in a second, I'm going to turn back the fuzz on there, and you can hear it with the fuzz rolled back on the pedal. But that's the other thing. I'm always looking for rollback on the guitar volume. And when you're playing a great fuzz pedal, when you roll back, you should get a different texture and feeling. And you should get, with some of the pedals, you should get like a real glassiness. Like with fuzz face pedals and 1.5, Mark 1.5 and 2 tone benders, I often judge them by how glassy I can get, because, well, that's the experience I've had with great pedals, and it's what people tend to look for. So when I roll back this Hendrix one, I don't get glassiness, not when it's set like this at all. It just gets more muffled, and yeah, let's hear that. Let's turn the fuzz down. That was at 2 o'clock. Let's put it halfway. So overall, this Hendrix pedal at the price, it does a certain job. I guess what I could do in another video is plug it into a completely clean amp, because the Marshall has a little bit going on. And maybe that's what this is made for, people using backline, clean, Hot Rod Deluxe or Fender amp or whatever clean amp is set up. And it gives you a flavor of a fuzz face at a really competitive price, but it doesn't live up to the original proper fuzz faces that I've had the chance to play, or the ones that I've got, which have just so much more going on, which we'll get to. To be fair to this pedal though, later I'm going to come back to it and set it slightly differently. But now let's hear it with the Univibe. In this video you're going to hear each of the 4 pedals with the Univibe that I prefer, which is the R Weaver Effects Midnight Vibe. I do love playing a fuzz and a Univibe together. Okay, so I've had that Hendrix fuzz thing for 3 or 4 years, for 4 years, maybe 5 years. And I rarely use it because it really does not do justice to me, to the whole fuzz face thing. It's okay. But just a little step up in price will get you something that I think is much more worthwhile, to be honest with you. And anything that says authentic Hendrix, by the way, is it really authentic Hendrix, or is it authentically Hendrix's family ripping him, you know, his estate off? Who knows? Say no more. Focus Fuzz, Great Eastern Effects. What I really like with what they're doing is they're coming from the approach of making things that are real tools. You know, with the Focus Fuzz, there's an extra knob on here, but what I noticed playing this is he's removed some of the massive low end that Fuzz Face is famous for, to create a fuzz that is in that Fuzz Face camp. You know, it rolls back nicely and all of those things, and it has a massive tone, but he's taken away some of that massive low end. And then when you use the focus knob, you can sort of create, I guess, more mids or upper mids that allow it to come through in the mix more, because big Fuzz Faces maybe work well if you're in a 3-piece setup, or you're like a main instrumentalist, or you're doing a Hendrix type thing. But in a more normal band setting, something like this I think works really well. So let's hear that. So yeah, you know, I always think for the price when I hit this on, I'll be honest, I didn't pay for this one. This was given to me by Danish Pete when I went to do some stuff with him. Really nice of him. But yeah, he wanted me to play with this and to see what I thought as well at the time. And I've since got the other Great Eastern Effects pedals and done some stuff with them. But yeah, no, I highly recommend this pedal. Although I hear there's some sort of evolution of it in the works, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Okay, let's hear it with the Univibe. So yeah, look, compared to the Hendrix one, just playing, I felt a bit more inspired to play. There was more dynamics under the fingers, more I could do with it, more I could play around with my volume knob and get some glassiness out of it and then really punch through, but without this massive low end that just overrides everything. So yeah, to me, like if I give the Hendrix Fuzz MXR thing a 2 out of 5 stars, I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't really have a rating system, but I just want to show you how I feel about it, you know? Before we move on to the big boys, so to speak. Okay, the Charlie pedals. This is a proper fuzz face. So it's going to have that low end, but it's how the low end interacts with the rest of it, right? Let's hear that. So that's with the fuzz set really high, you know, like, I don't know, 3/4 or more, and the level set, you know, at, something that was above the amp volume, but like behind the fuzz volume, if you see what I mean, on the knob. But what I found over time using these sort of pedals is if you lower the fuzz volume, or the fuzz knob, sorry, to, let's say, half or 1/4, and you put the level much higher, nearly on full or whatever you can manage, you're probably going to get a more interesting sound. It's a bit like the sound you'll get rolled back when you've got the fuzz up high, but there's just more dynamics to it. So I love what it does to the amp. Let's hear that. So you get more like dynamics, more squish, more texture, but without that massive, all of the massive overriding fuzz itself, which sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. But this is how you can use these pedals as an always on or as a textural sort of thing, and why ultimately I generally use fuzz over overdrives when I can, but set like this. And then having reminded myself of that, I thought I better give the Hendrix pedal a chance at doing that as well. So before we hear the Univibe with the Charlie pedals, I want you to hear the Hendrix set like that with the fuzz low but the volume high. I mean, yeah, listening to that Hendrix with the level pushed and the fuzz lower, there's an ugliness to the sound of it that you can't get over when you compare the two. Whether that's a big deal to you and in the setting you use it is up to you, I guess. But for me, it's just a bit of a no. I'd definitely go for the Focus fuzz over that. Okay, I want to hear the Charlie pedals with the Univibe. All right, the Isle of Tone, which, you know, Isle of Tone produces some of the most beautiful looking pedals. If you look at their Instagram, there's some amazing stuff, great players that use their stuff. I think quite an enigmatic figure that runs that outfit. So yeah, I wanted to get my hands on one, and luckily was able to get this a couple of years ago, I think now. But yeah, let's start hearing that. It's got 3 different choices of transistors. I think I start in the middle, very quickly after that go to the left, which is the one with the small dot, and then later in the clip I'll let you know I end up on the big one. So to me, this maybe has the greatest breadth of tones that I can get out of any of the fuzz pedals I've got with those 3 different settings, and rollback on these pedals is just fantastic, right? I think the Charlie pedals ultimately has my favorite individual sound out of all my fuzz pedals, but the Isle of Tone has maybe the most usability. When I roll that back, it's just so glassy whilst also still having a lot of oomph to it, which some pedals when you roll back you get glassiness, but you lose a lot of oomph behind what you're doing. The Isle of Tone is not like that. That could just be because I'd been playing, you know, this was the last pedal I demoed, but like when I put the Univibe on and with this pedal, it really like gave me that feeling, that inspirational feeling you get sometimes, you know, when you're sat in your studio by yourself and you're the best player in the world, you know what I mean, just for that moment, you know. And then you hear it back and you go, oh right, yeah, it's still just me. But it's, you know, the tone, the fuzz pedal itself just sounds fantastic. So nice to play under the fingers. And, you know, you start to think, does it really matter that it costs 8 or 9 or 100 or £1,000? I mean, if you're going to keep it for life and you've got lots of lovely gear that you use it with, I don't know. We'll come to that in a second. So like, it's hard to convince someone who's not massively into fuzz that it's worth spending lots of money on a fuzz pedal. But if one day you have that epiphany, which I did, you know, several years back, that overdrive's great, but to be honest with you, there's a few different flavors. Pick your favorite brand or favorite few pedals sorted, and don't need to be that expensive. With fuzz pedals, you really get what you pay for in a lot of cases. You know, fuzz makers putting in the time to find the right pairs or of transistors or whatever it is, whatever circuit they're using. And then on top of that, the way that you create the rest of the circuit and bias it. And that's how it, you know, different makers have a different way of making their pedals feel to play. It's such a big sound that can get away from you that you need a pedal that suits the way you want to play, how you want to roll back your volume, how much compression you want to have, how much sort of like wildness. The little MXR pedal doesn't really give you anything really. I mean, the only reason I would get that pedal is if you so I would get the Focus Fuzz if you don't want to spend a lot of money in relative terms. It punches way above its weight in terms of its price. So yeah, definitely. But if you're looking for a be-all and end-all fuzz pedal, someone like Charlie pedals or Isle of Tone, and there are other makers of that type, you know, I'm not going to name them all here, but well, yeah, there are great guys out there making that sort of stuff. I've got other videos where I talk about all of that. That's it. Is it worth spending the money? Yes, if you can. I mean, if you have a £5,000 or 10 grand guitar and 5 or 10 grand of amps you're playing through, then really, yes, because the fuzz ultimately is affecting all of those things massively. So definitely worth spending 4, 5, 6, 800 quid. Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm off on holiday for a week, so I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Cheers.